This episode of Good Morning Wilmington is brought to you by DART, Delaware's public transit service, moving you forward.
Good morning, Delaware. This is DETV's Good Morning Wilmington. Hey guys, happy Monday.
What's going on
Monday.
there, guys? How was your weekend?
Good.
It was great.
Yeah? That's good.
It was a blur.
I had a relaxing one. I went to the beach. I depugged. I went away.
It's good to do
Nice.
that. Which
Yeah.
beach you go to?
Well, my family likes to go to Bethany, so
Okay.
we have a timeshare there every year around this
Okay.
time. So I was like,
Okay.
you know what? I'm skipping out for 2 days.
All right. That's
So,
good.
Bethany's a good one to go to. It's
Lewis
very
is
low-key.
my favorite.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Lewis. I love
Okay.
Lewis.
Yeah.
It's real quiet. I'll get down there like
And the
7.
water is calmer there. So I see that. Yeah.
You see what I'm putting down? Yeah. How about you,
Okay.
Kristen?
Yeah. What's your favorite?
I really didn't get into a whole lot.
No?
No, my weekend seems like a blur,
Oh.
but it was great. I could say that.
Yeah, that's
Well,
good. That's
yeah.
That's all
good.
that matters,
That's
as long
good.
as it was great.
That's
it
good.
was
Yeah,
good.
I went down to go see some family again in D.C. You know, I love me some D.C.
I know.
I go down there and turn up again. And while I was down there, you guys, I'm sure, heard mask mandates
Yep.
are officially in. So all those that are watching, masking in schools and COVID vaccinations are officially back on.
Yeah.
So how y'all
We're
feeling
not
about that?
surprised.
I'm not surprised.
I'm
I'm not.
No.
I'm not. I know the Philadelphia Teachers Union are cooperating in Philly with anything that's decided for Pennsylvania.
Yep.
New York, they are mandating required vaccine amongst staff or weekly testing. So a lot of states are coming up with, either you're going to be wearing masks and being vaccinated or you can be tested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you guys feeling about that?
I mean, listen, anything to keep us safe. Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and it's really uncertain. I mean, we've talked about it before. I mean, with the Delta variant and everything else that's happening, we don't know what is to come.
Yes.
There's still a lot of questions up in the air. So,
One
I'm
thing
with you.
Yeah, I do like when I get the updates for Delaware. There haven't been any new deaths reported, which I think is very good.
It is.
So I think if we all continue to do our due diligence, those who are not vaccinated, do
Right.
so.
Right.
But we all should definitely wear our masks. I believe University of Delaware, their indoor events, you're going to have to wear a mask. I think
Regardless of vaccination.
Right.
I mean,
Regardless,
yeah. And I think that's really interesting too. Like, one of the things that I read about was how every college in Delaware is approaching all of this. The UD is requiring masks in indoor activities, regardless of vaccination. I think Delaware State was interesting to me because
yeah, they have a
they're vaccinated students and then they have to get tested once a week, even though they're vaccinated. And then those who are unvaccinated have to do a test twice a week.
Well, throw another curveball. Did you guys hear about Florida? The governor is pretty much saying you're going to be relieved of your
Yes.
position. Those that are superintendents, I believe,
Superintendent.
if
Yeah.
they are mandating to do the.
Masks, yeah.
I'm really shocked, but Florida, yeah.
It is
Sometimes,
Florida. Yes.
sometimes they have sort of quonky policies when you get further down south.
Why
I
would
don't get it.
you not want masks to be mandated?
I have no idea. I understand individuals because even my agency, we are now like any other nonprofit and for-profit organization, they're mandating that everyone gets vaccinated. I know it's a little sketchy. I know a lot of individuals are feeling some kind of way about that because it goes against personal beliefs, and I'm sure we'll get into that at another time. But I understand. It's hard.
All of this is just really tricky. It's complicated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here talking about what Delaware colleges are doing, and now we're looking at, the fall's coming, so it's not just colleges going back. We're looking at K through 12.
Right.
Definitely.
And we're looking at a population that don't have a vaccine,
Very
younger
Exactly.
children.
Very
so
true.
it's like,
And it's funny you mentioned that because I don't know if you guys have seen where COVID school closures are affecting test scores as well.
Yes, that
So
should not be a surprise.
that shouldn't be. But
Yeah.
I recently interviewed Dr. Newton from Warren Elementary School,
yes.
and we were talking about all the great work that he and his teachers and his other administrators are doing at Warner. But I'm an alumni. You're an alumni. We just
Yes.
established, and I struggled while in foster care at Warner and was held back because of DSTP. So I'm like, I can only imagine how COVID played a role
Listen.
for those that don't have a stable home.
Yeah.
Yes.
And while I'm grateful for the school district stepping out when COVID hit, they were helping supply from low income to rural to, here's some computers, there's Google Chrome,
Yes.
even what's the, I forget the name, Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi.
They were
yes,
supplying
the company.
internet in certain communities.
Yeah.
So, but
Indeed.
still a struggle because it's different when you're at home, you're distracted. I can't work at home. So I can only imagine how a student is trying to focus on school.
It's an
at home.
adjustment, and even if you and I heard you said not every child has a stable home environment. There are some children who do have stable home environments. However,
And still struggle.
still struggle because and I will be very transparent. I have always been a very present parent when it comes to my daughter's education, going into school, knowing who her teachers are, the principal. I'm very active. But with COVID taking place and us being quarantined and her learning at home, I don't know, it just kind of threw some things off a little. And I felt like there was a divide in communication, and I didn't really know who am I going to talk to because I don't know the answers to these questions, or man, like she just wants so much attention from me and I need to go and do this. And that balance, it's and me, an independent parent, at home, and I only have one child. So that's a challenge. That was a challenge for me and for her. But with other children, regardless of what your home situation is like, every student learns differently.
That's true.
So when you have students who are already in school and may have some challenges, and now you're going into a home environment and you don't know what that home environment is like, you're being faced with attention issues. Are you going to sit and pay attention? Are you going to lay in bed and try to be in bed and in class, or,
I think that all families, especially families with children during the lockdown and the pandemic, I think they all had I think everyone had their own unique challenges in this.
Yes.
So if you think about the parents who were frontline workers who weren't at home, to be there to help assist their children with their education, especially if they have young ones that can't do it independently. You think about those types of families. You think about, people like you who are a single parent and you work from home and there's a lot to juggle, and now you have a whole bunch of my hat's off to parents during that time with young children, for sure.
My hats go off to the children because
And
they're the
them.
ones who are in it, going through it. And I just got my daughter's test scores from her state testing in, I want to say, somewhere within the last 2 to 3 weeks. And again, I have an awesome, amazing daughter. I'm so proud of her. Tori, I'm so proud of you. She does really great. But listen, these students, trying to do this testing, if you were in hybrid and you had to do it over the computer, that's challenging.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're resilient. You gotta.
They are very resilient.
You gotta
but
applaud these kids and the parents.
Yeah.
And then for the parents with all these vaccinations mandates, with all the mask mandates, there is a free COVID vaccination back at school for back to school. And basically, there's the DPH and Department of Education. They're partnering up with various other communities to provide a free clinic Thursday, August the 19th, from 4 to 8. So all those that are watching, if you're trying to figure out, make sure you get to that clinic.
I believe it's for 12 years or older.
Yep. But anyone under 18
needs
gotta have
parental
have their
consent.
parental consent. How are you feeling about that?
Again, my kid's not 12 yet, but it's definitely a conversation that we'll have when she reaches that point.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. So we're about to go sit down.
No, I'm excited.
Who are you sitting
I'm
down
actually getting ready to go sit down with Ashley S.K.
Okay.
Davis.
Okay.
She is the executive and artistic director.
Did she perform at the Clifford Brown
At
Jazz
the
Fest?
Clifford,
Oh,
yes,
man, I love
yes.
her. I love her.
So many incredible performances at the Jazz Festival. So
Right.
I'm really looking forward to heading over to the chairs.
Pieces of a dream.
I know, and talk to her about that. So so I'm ready.
All right.
We're gonna go. I'm gonna actually get ready to go and sit down and talk to Ashley. We'll be right back.
We're doing a lot of talking here in Washington, in the Senate, about infrastructure. What's that really mean? Well, if we move forward on the bipartisan infrastructure plan that I'm supporting, that's going to mean millions more dollars for Delaware and Delawareans to improve Amtrak and Septa, to improve our roads and bridges up and down the state, to make sure we've got better access to broadband so that your cell phone calls don't drop as you drive up and down the state, so that kids can get access to Wi-Fi for school and we can take advantage of telemedicine. I'm excited about a $580 billion new proposal for infrastructure for this country. But more than anything, I'm interested about how this will create good, high-paying jobs in Delaware and make our state easier to live in, more equitable and just, and more accessible in this digital age. For more information, go to my website, coons.senate.gov. Thanks.
Welcome back, everybody. So sitting down with me now is Ashley S.K. Davis. How are you?
Good.
And
How are
she
you?
is the lovely executor and artistic director from Pieces of a Dream.
Yes. Hello. Thank you so much for having me today.
So tickled and excited to have you here.
Oh,
so,
thank you.
I mean, I'm a performing arts major, but it was for theater. So I did have to study a little bit of dance, but of course it was theater dance. So I have such an appreciation and admiration for dancers, and I love, love, love watching it.
That's great.
And I had the pleasure of getting to see your company perform at the Clifford Brown Jazz Festival.
That
over the weekend.
was so exciting to finally to be back on a stage with a live audience and having dancers being able to move through the space. COVID was a long, certainly a long run. We're not through it by any means. And as we all know, we had an impact on a variety of different types of organizations, but it really hit our performing arts organizations hard.
It did.
So the last time we had danced with a live audience was February 2020.
That's crazy.
And then flash forward to Clifford Brown, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Especially for such an iconic festival, such a staple of not only the city, but of the state, to be able to be one of the first dance performances they did and presented. It was really, really great.
I mean, it was fantastic. And I
Thank you.
was so thrilled to see dance incorporated in the Jazz Festival. I mean, it's such a beautiful art form. But one of the things that I would love to talk to you about is, what were the pieces? What was the name of the piece that you guys did at the festival?
So we did a couple of different works. We did some excerpts from a variety of different things. We presented excerpts from a piece that I call Goddess Cycle, which features, the pieces in it are For Women and Change Gonna Come, which are two kind of iconic works in our rep that actually is performed by our second company, PD2. So we have our first company, which is adult dancers, adult professional dancers, but we also have a company of second of teenagers, mostly middle school and high school students who are also professional. They take a bunch of classes and they get paid to come out and perform when I send them out. And so Change Gonna Come is certainly a staple of ours, of our rep. And the dancers that performed in it are members of our, either current members of PD2 or in this case, actually alum. Because at this point, the ones that were seniors have just graduated, and so they are moving on to college. And I pulled back some of our PD2 alum to also participate and pull out some old works from their rep.
Cool.
We also performed a solo, three solos that afternoon. One was to Rocket's theme. That was one of our students at the dance company, or dance studio, Pieces of a Dream Academy of Dance. Is actually my daughter, who was 9, and she was super nervous the whole time, but she did such a great job. And then two other solo works. One was was Strange Fruit by Kamani Abu. He's an amazing dancer, amazing young man. He's just started dancing 3 years ago.
Really?
Yes. So this past year, his senior year, he finished his 3rd year of formal dance classes. I remember distinctly when he came into the studio the first day, he'd never seen hide or hair of a ballet bar.
Wow.
And didn't know any of the terminology. He was a rising sophomore in high school, and he was auditioning for PD2, and I said, well, I can't give you a spot in the company, but I'd love to train you. And he began taking classes with us. And flash forward 2 years later, 2.5, 3 years later, he got into Ailey Fordham, which is one of the premier yes. so Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater is one of the preeminent modern dance companies in the world. And they have a partnership with Fordham University for an MFA dance. And so he got in, which is one of the hardest dance conservatory programs to get into in the country. And so he got into that, and he'll be headed off to New York in a few short weeks.
That is phenomenal.
And the piece he performed that day, actually, he choreographed. So one day last summer, he came in, was really, we'd had a lot of conversations at the studio about George Floyd and the uprisings that were happening across the country, and the impact of it for our students and their families, especially with my teens. You know, my teens, they have brothers and they have fathers and they have friends. And, you know, in the case of Kamani, it's like, you know, he's a tall, lanky kid that, but to someone could look kind of scary, and that's sad.
Yeah.
And so we spent a lot of time last year kind of giving space for them to talk, and we just kind of talked through some things. And then at some point he was like, "Hey, Miss Ash, can you put on this music for me? I just want to show you something." And this was it. I was like, "Well, this looks great."
Yeah, right.
And so that piece that we've tweaked it a little bit since last summer, but that's his work. That's his creation. And then the final solo we performed, the dancer's name was Taylor Richardson.
Okay.
And the piece she performed was called, well, it doesn't have a title yet. I've been calling it, it's just called Untitled. I call it Suffrage.
Okay.
And it's 8-minute solo that's going to be part of a work in progress. It's going to be developed into something longer that I wrote kind of in response to the Breonna Taylor verdict last September 2020, and just kind of thinking about what that means to, you know, have the right to vote, how we kind of play around with those rights, what that means to have suffrage, but then also playing with words a little bit, suffer and rage. And yeah, so I'm excited to explore that. So that one's not developed yet, but we have presented excerpts. Yeah.
I love it. I mean, and one of the things that I really love about what you guys are doing, what you are doing specifically with this company, is the level of creativity and the freedom to choreograph and perform like your own works of art, especially for these dancers. I think that's phenomenal. I think it's fantastic. I mean, for me, art has always been, it is therapeutic. You work through things in life, what's happening in the world. And so to have something like this, especially here in Delaware, I think is fantastic. And I truly, truly commend you for that. Because I know you founded this. You founded this company, was it 2007, I believe?
Yes.
Okay. So
we have been around for quite a while.
You have.
So we started as just a professional company, and it really began, I was teaching dance classes, and I had some works that I wanted to present that aren't really appropriate for a traditional dance recital. You know, if people come to a dance recital and they want to see a 2-year-old in tutus and
spinning around
and glitter and sequins. Yes, there's space for that.
Sure.
And that's lovely and that's important. But I had some works that I wanted to share that weren't just kind of conducive to that.
Yeah.
And so that's when I founded the company. And so we've been producing an annual concert each year. It's usually in the spring.
Okay.
Since 2008 was our first concert. We missed 2021. But
there was a lot that was missed in that year. I know.
But we are looking forward to kind of getting back onto a regular performance cycle now that the venues are reopening and capacity limits are lifting. We're looking forward to getting our audience back into the seats and doing that. So
that's fantastic. So I know you founded Pieces of a Dream in 2007. When did you launch the second part, PD2?
Okay, so PD2 started 2007 as well.
Oh, so
our training program, the Pieces of a Dream Academy of Dance, that began in 2015.
Okay.
So many, many years later. Throughout that whole time, I was teaching dance, and I love teaching dance. And it was funny, I was telling people, even as early as late 2014, I'll never open a dance studio. I don't want to do it. It's a lot of work. And then it's so much work.
I know.
It's so much work. But I was finding myself at the different studios where I taught, finding myself having very different ideas about how to create a program and what to, if I had a dance studio, I would require my students to take these classes. If I had a dance studio, I would make sure that our students, they perform in class, and maybe we do competition, but we're going to spend a lot of time going to shows. I want them to see professional companies. I want them to see not just me on the stage, but I want them to see a variety of different types of companies.
Be well versed.
Yeah,
for sure.
If I have a dance studio, I want to make sure we bring in lots of guest artists because I want them to know that dance is bigger than what Miss Ashley said or the teachers here. And so I was these little ideas were kind of sprinkling in the back of my mind, and then the opportunity presented itself, and I talked with our board, and we decided to go ahead and move forward and launch. And we've been doing very well. I'm super excited. We have a home right on Lancaster Ave on the west side of Wilmington, 2814 Lancaster Avenue, and We've just wrapped the summer session last week, and we're looking forward to getting ready to launch for the fall.
Okay.
It's to start on September 6th, 7th, Tuesday, whatever that Tuesday is.
Okay. I will say, where's my calendar?
Yes.
But no, that's great. I mean, this is all phenomenal. It blows my mind. I think it's what you're doing is great. The training programs, PD2, and just having this type of art form here is fantastic. But before I let you go, two things. One, what's coming up that maybe we could check out or see that's coming from Pieces of a Dream?
Yeah, so we have the first thing that we're doing right now is we are prepping for the registration for the upcoming year. So we are accepting enrollment for dancers ages 2 up through adults. So currently, the oldest dancer that dances, our youngest dancer, just turned 2 in April, I believe.
Okay.
And our oldest dancer, I think, is in her 70s. She might be 78.
Love it.
So we have movement available for everyone, all bodies, all genders, any ideas.
I love it.
You know, so we are prepping for that. We are having auditions for our performance crew and our competition team.
Okay.
And that'll be on August 26th.
Okay.
We are also, in terms of the professional company, about to have auditions for our upcoming season as well. So people can kind of check out our website. It's www.piecesofadream.org. And you'll get more details about our professional company and those auditions. And then we're hoping to relaunch and get back into the studio or into theaters.
Okay.
Hopefully spring.
I love it.
2020.
Well,
2022.
And you answered my second question because I was going to say if anyone wants to get involved or
yes.
join, so you covered that one. So
great.
perfect.
That'll be
Super. Well, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing all this information with us. And I know I'm really excited for everything that's coming up. I will be keeping my eyes out. I won't audition. I won't go.
Listen.
I might come over. I might come over on the audition.
Come on over.
I'll come over. I'll get
At least
back
we can
into
find
it.
an adult class for you.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'm in. Well, thank you again so
Thank
much.
you.
And it was great having you. And we will be right back, you guys. Another huge thank you to Ashley from Pieces of a Dream. What they're doing, what she is doing, what she has done is just
She's
phenomenal.
a phenomenal performer,
Definitely.
and the performances at the Jazz Fest.
Oh my gosh.
Those girls are committed, and gentlemen.
Gentlemen, I mean,
Yeah.
and he's gone Alvin Ailey.
Yeah,
Like,
I heard that at the Jazz Fest. I was like, that's huge.
I shared with her beforehand, like I had to do a whole report when I went to Performing Arts College on Alvin Ailey. So like I had to really study and understand it. And I'm just like, when she said that, my mind was blown.
That is huge. They, you
It's
know, you
massive.
really get you going. The music, and it's so fun. I told Ashley too. I was like, when you listen to Billie Holiday, it's personal for me. I'm like, oh, I hate this song, but it's awakening emotions. And then watching the performances, I'm like, you did that.
Yeah.
You did that.
Yeah,
You did that.
love her.
So,
She's fantastic. Yeah.
Did you guys hear about a certain governor from New York?
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. He's out. Andrew Cuomo.
Yes.
How y'all feeling about that?
I mean, are we surprised?
I'm not. How you feeling about it? Gina?
Not surprised. I'm with you guys. I'm definitely not surprised. I know I'm pretty sure he was holding off on doing that for a while. I know he was fighting back a lot. I mean, denying the allegations, everything else, and I don't think he really necessarily wanted to resign. But
And I think even in his resignation, I'll give him that kind of credit for saying, let's just go ahead and get back to government. Because if we had gone through impeachment, if we had gone through all of that, it would have held up taxpayers' money.
Yep.
It would have held up so much. And then we're in the middle of COVID. We need to get
there's
back
a lot of
to
other things that
Yeah.
need to be taken
We need to
precedent.
get back
for
together.
sure. But I mean, and not to diminish any of the 11 women
Right.
that
Yeah.
stepped up. Not to diminish
Right.
what's going on there. But I think we as a country that our focus needs to be on COVID and stuff like that. But I'm not surprised that he did it.
Yeah. I just, you guys, we talked about this last show, and I'm going to say it again. I would like for us from the top down to define how it needs to be defined from Congress, what impeachment is. It needs to be defined because you find it across the board on the national stage and locally.
Yes.
You know, we pick and choose which local elected should get the slap on the wrist, which ones shouldn't. So it needs to be defined. And I know everyone will be quick to be like, well, it was defined through Clinton. It really has not.
I feel like just a code of conduct
Yes.
really should
That
be put
needs
into
to be-
place. I mean, we have one everywhere else. I mean,
Yes.
with the HR consulting, I mean, yeah. So
Yes.
what do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, maybe there should be some kind of code of conduct. However, shouldn't it just be a given that when you are in a position of power,
I ain't faulting that.
Listen,
you are not
I
to
agree.
abuse that power
I
you
agree.
have?
I agree.
There are 11 accusers that were all found credible. So here you are, Andrew Cuomo, in your role. I can only imagine the scenarios,
Yeah.
the way my mind comes up with some
Yeah.
things, the scenarios that these 11 accusers maybe went through. But at what point do you say, you know what, like, I'm in this position, I shouldn't be, you know, making particular comments or remarks or actions because I understand I'm in a position of authority. So I'm in the spotlight. Everyone's going to comb through everything that I say with a fine-tooth comb. So let me maintain my P's and Q's.
but I'm with you. I mean, yeah, it should be a given.
It should be.
But I feel like there's a lot of things in life that should be a given. And I know, and like,
But
what's
if we
funny
walked
is,
around like that, you know how many
Right.
people would just.
it's
Could you
one of
imagine?
those things.
Oh, it's just a given.
And what's funny about that, and so it's so funny that you bring that up because it's something that I have been struggling with in my personal life and things that are going on. I'm like, these things are just, aren't they just unspoken rules on how you interact with, and then, you know, but it's apparently not. So I feel like, you know, having these types of, here's the way it's supposed to be, here's how you need to be, especially in a role of power like that. I feel like that maybe it's necessary.
So listen, if you live your life to a certain standard, you know, you in your personal life, you're an upstanding person and you don't do certain kinds of things. When you're in this position of power, it should be reflected. You should not be living two different ways. You know, you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent. So we all know what we're getting. You know.
Yeah. And speaking of the lack of consistency, did you guys hear about Septa fraud cases? Man,
Oh my
the U.S.
gosh.
Department of Justice right now, officials announced corruption charges against 7 former Septa employees. If it's not 7, I think it might be 9.
Nine.
So
Yeah,
9.
9 different ones.
So
yes.
9 former Septa employees and 2 outside vendors over allegedly I think it was like a year-long scheme
It
of
was from
over
like 2013 to 2019.
yeah.
for millions of dollars.
Yeah. I feel
How,
like this is
Sway?
going to be turned into
How,
a movie.
Sway? How?
I'm waiting.
How you do that? How you do that? Is it 1 million?
No, you know what it was? They were
was $1
doing.
million.
They
It
were
was for $1
going
million.
through
It's for $1 million.
Yes.
invoices, false invoices.
It's probably why the AC doesn't
Is
work.
that
Or
why I
on
got-
the subway.
Is that
I know,
why I
right?
got charged them 2 times? When I was riding Septa.
Look, as I'm reading more and more about how this is playing out, I'm like, this feels like someone's going to turn this into a movie. I'm waiting
All
for
pun
it.
intended.
I hope
Train
so.
wreck. Like,
Yeah.
all pun intended.
I mean, it is going to be
Definitely.
turned into, I'm waiting for like them to announce the screenplays being written. I'm waiting.
Here's my question. How do you get the gumption to say, I'm going to take $1 million from Septa?
Yeah.
Like, how do you really come up with
And then,
this,
were
this
they?
thought?
So
and you
here's
feel
what
like
I
you're
got.
gonna get away
Were they
with it?
former employees or were they employed while doing it?
I think they were
They had to have been
current
employed.
employees.
They
They
were
were
currently
employed during.
employed while
Yeah.
doing
They had to have been employed while doing it.
So I saw my check and was like, nope. I'm gonna get some more.
I feel like someone watched the movie Office Space and was
Right.
like, and like started taking notes.
You know what it
One of
reminds me
the-
of? Have you ever saw that movie with Queen Latifah, Mad Money,
Yes.
where they work at the mint
Yep.
and they're
I've
like
heard of
they
the
got a
movie,
whole
but I haven't
hustle
watched
on
it.
how to
Take
put
the
the
money
money in the
in the-
trash.
yes, and
and
like
so
they
then
just-
they get your other
You said Queen
coworker.
Latifah, and I was thinking about
Don't
Set It
say
Off.
set it off. See, I'm done. I'm done with
I was
Kristen.
thinking set it off. I know.
No,
I
but
know.
seriously,
But it's still money. But,
it is money.
You know,
But I was just like,
Yeah.
they had a whole plan.
They did.
So, I don't know.
craziness.
Yeah, train wreck. So we'll be
Oh, my
definitely keeping an
goodness.
eye on that. I was like, well, that's why AC's messed up. Music ain't playing on the train.
Exactly.
It's just all.
The Septa could be such a better experience had they had $1 million more.
I'd be sitting on it, rocking out to the music, and I'm like, nope, that just cut out midway. So lights are flickering. So it's a
Oh my
shame.
goodness.
But speaking of music, I'm getting to go sit over with Bryan Greene.
Hey, yours.
Mr. Archivist. You know he's a Harvard grad.
Really?
I did not know
I
that.
was like,
interesting.
whoa! And somehow he's getting involved with Summer of Soul. So I'm about to go find out
Very nice.
more about this. I want to see the trailer, so I think he's going to play the trailer for me when I
Okay.
go over there and talk to him. So I can't wait.
I
So
can either.
let's
All
go.
right.
Let's go check out Mr. Bryan Greene.
Government doesn't make a move without an agenda, some type of plan. The problem is we haven't been on the agenda. Sometimes we're overlooked. Sometimes our interests aren't the interest of those in power. I'm your host, Kerwin Gaines, on DETV's new show, The Agenda. We're going to do our best to ensure that you, Delawareans, are knowledgeable about what's going on in the Assembly. Federal government, local government, it doesn't matter. We're going to do our best to ensure that folks that make the agenda on a daily basis have to answer for it. Let them explain what they're doing. If it affects you, it's on the agenda.
We're back, and we're in for a treat. We have the pleasure of sitting down with Bryan Greene, consulting producer for Summer of Soul. How are you, sir?
Good.
It's
Nice to
good
be here.
to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, while you're here in Delaware, just for our viewers, are you originally from here?
No,
No.
I am not.
Okay.
I'm a New Yorker originally.
Okay.
And I've lived more than half my life now in Washington, D.C.
Wow. Now, help me understand some of your background.
Sure.
It's my understanding you went to Harvard, correct?
Yeah.
And what did you major in while you were there?
I was a government major.
Really?
And I worked for almost 30 years in the government.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And for someone that, and it's actually a bit of a treat to hear that you went to Harvard and focused in government, because I went to get my bachelor's in political science, but I went to an art school.
Oh.
So it's kind of interesting to hear that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how did you get involved with Summer of Soul?
So, in addition to my other job, I am a writer.
Okay.
And so I'm a freelance writer, writing a lot about history.
Okay.
I'm also a guitarist, so I enjoy music. And when I heard about the 1969 Harlem Cultural Festival and the fact that no one had heard of it before, I was like, this is a story that must be told. And beyond that, I said, there ought to be a movie about this.
Now, who's all involved with the actual Summer of Soul?
So the film that is out now is a music documentary, and it was directed by Questlove, Amir Thompson, of The Roots.
Okay.
And, the project goes back a few years. Well, first of all, there were many people who were trying to get a hold of this actual footage. This is footage of a concert in Harlem, 1969. It's actually a festival, six Sunday concerts. And that footage sat in a basement for 50 years. The person who shot the footage, people had approached many times to sell it, but it was only around the time he died that people got a hold of it. Wow. And so I had written the most comprehensive account of this festival, and I hooked up with the producers who obtained the footage to tell this story.
Now, is the footage, now that the footage is out, how can viewers get access to see it?
So now, Questlove has put together a 2-hour film with the highlights of this concert and the context, and that's where a lot of the themes that I have written about come into play. So it's a 2-hour Hulu documentary. You can see it's actually in the theaters as well. And we think it's a concert film on par with Woodstock and all those other ones that came out back in the day. This one's just long overdue.
Now, how did you, for someone that's you just shared with me, you graduated from Harvard, you focused in politics. Why this? Why this project? For someone that's got a
Yeah.
government relations type background, why
Yeah.
why music? Why Harlem? Why this project?
Well,
together?
because music is based in culture, and this story in particular tells the story of African American culture and history and politics at the time. So the story that I wrote in 2017 that started this for me was all about how the mayor of New York at that time, Mayor Lindsay, was a strong supporter of African American culture and African American political participation. He was very popular among African Americans, which surprised a lot of people because he was a Republican from the Silk Stocking district of New York. But I got interested in the story in part because I was researching him, and I found out there was this festival where people called him onto the stage and introduced him as our blue-eyed soul brother working for us downtown. And I was just like, I've got to understand this better. Yeah. Why was he so popular among African Americans in New York? And I grew up in New York, and I remember my parents talking about Lindsay and what they liked about him. And so he supported this festival. It was in one of the parks in New York for six Sundays, and this had the backing of the city. In fact, the guy who organized it was African American lounge singer who the city had hired to organize this festival.
Wow. Just listening to you, we just ended our Clifford Brown Jazz Festival last week, and our very own Ivan Thomas was hosting with Tina Betts from Culture Affairs.
Oh, good.
And it's really interesting to hear you speak on the importance of music and its how it played its role even during the civil rights era. Because I think about my grandfather who talks about Otis Redding and Aretha Franklin, and looking at some of the reviews for Summer of Soul and the individuals that were involved in that. I think of songs that it's been a long time coming. So when you watch this, did what kind of feeling did it get to you? Because just watching Black History movies, civil rights movies, just the music alone, it moves me to the core. So I'm curious how it moved you.
Well, I mean, this was America at a crossroads, and particularly Black America. This was the year after Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated.
Right.
And they talked about this at the festival. So the staple singers, who were civil rights activists themselves, they performed at one point with Jesse Jackson's Operation Breadbasket Orchestra. Wow. So Jesse Jackson's up on the stage directing, conducting a band. And they talk about Dr. King and the assassination of Dr. King. Wow. And he talks about how Dr. King's favorite song was My Precious Lord, and brings out Mahalia Jackson. And Mavis Staples to sing this song together in honor of Dr. King. So, so there's explicit discussion of politics. There's stuff going on in Harlem that, they talked about from the stage. But beyond that, there was political expression in the music, whether it was gospel or whether it was Sly and the Family Stone, taking things in a completely different direction. Politics and music are always...
They always go hand in hand.
Yeah, they're steeped.
Yeah, and it definitely, if you can't articulate it through a speech, a lot of our musicians and artists have been able to articulate it through a song. So what is your hope for the general public to get out of this when they're watching it?
Yeah, obviously to enjoy just the amazing music that African Americans have contributed to this country. And there's also, Latin music here too, because this is the Harlem Cultural Festival, and we have Spanish Harlem in New York, and it was the entire community coming together. So there's great music for people to enjoy, but also just a better understanding of the historical context, what was going on in America, what were the challenges, what were the choices we had at that time too, because America was hurting. We had several assassinations, in addition to Dr. King, the Kennedys, for example. And so people see, where we were at the time, the choices we had to make. The moon landing occurred right in the middle of the festival. And African Americans, a large percentage of African Americans didn't support the moon landing. They thought it was a distraction from issues here on Earth. So I think people can get a better understanding of where we've been when they watch this film.
And isn't it funny too how history repeats itself? Because just listening to you and thinking back to the civil rights movement, here we are post-COVID, a health pandemic, following Black Lives Matter movement. Do you see how this documentary relates to even our current issues that we're dealing with now?
I think so, yes. I mean, I think this movie has been so popular in large part because people are reaching for a better understanding of African American history, and what have been our triumphs, but also what are the barriers that we still face today. So yeah, and people like some good music.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm one of them. I'm one of them. When you were telling me that you could play guitar, I was like, I can do keyboard, but don't get me to play with you. I might be able to do a little chopsticks, nothing more than that. Now, I noticed there were some artists that were very monumental that have changed my life with their music that played a role in this. Stevie Wonder, B.B. King. You care to speak to some of that? Because Stevie Wonder, like I said, during the civil rights era, he played a huge role with his music. Like, he touched a lot of topics, controversial, some good, some bad. Like, he was all over. Like, who were some of the artists?
Yeah, he was 19 when he played the Harlem Cultural Festival.
How old was he? Was even younger than that when he signed with Motown, correct?
Yes, yeah. So he's there, incredible performance. I don't want to give it away, but there's some surprises in his performance. You had 6 different days of concerts, and they each had a different theme. Like you had blues, you had gospel, you had R&B, and so you had Latin music. So you had representatives of all those different genres. Fifth Dimension, they were there. Wow. They sung Aquarius and Let the Sunshine In. They were one of the most popular acts in America at the time they played this. People who came to the Harlem Cultural Festival got to see them for free in the park in Harlem. Oh Happy Day by the Edwin Hawkins Singers. That was one of the most popular songs in the world that year. That whole choir from the Bay Area, they were there to sing at the Harlem Cultural Festival. Mahalia Jackson, the Staple Singers, B.B. King, Nina Simone, really spectacular performance from her.
I just Mahalia Jackson was played in my household all the time. I grew up with a grandmother that's a former minister, and Mahalia Jackson. Just looking at some of the history with her, going back to how we kept highlighting how music played a huge role in African American lives then and now.
Yeah.
I would read about how Dr. King at times before having to give a speech would call Mahalia Jackson. And ask her to just sing to him a gospel song just to lift his spirits up.
That's right.
Before going out there and addressing a crowd. So these artists played a huge role in more ways than one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You really see the integral role that these artists played in African American history and protest.
Wow. Well, I'm truly looking forward to seeing this, and we're actually going to take a moment to check out the trailer and make sure all the viewers get to look at it. So check this out. We'll be right back.
Are you ready, black people? Are you ready? Are you really ready? Are you ready to listen to all the beautiful black voices, the beautiful black feeling, the beautiful black waves moving in beautiful air? Are you ready, black people? Are you ready? Nobody ever heard of the Harlem Culture Festival. Nobody would believe it happened.
6 weekends of major artists.
The Panthers were the security and kids were sitting up on the trees. I was nervous.
I didn't expect a crowd like that. Something very important was happening. It wasn't just about the music.
1969 was a change of era in the black community.
The styles were changing.
Music was changing.
And revolution was coming together.
We are a new people. We are a beautiful people.
That concert took my life from black and white into color.
We wanted progress. We are black people, and we should be proud of this.
We were coming together to say this was our world and how beautiful it was.
We're gonna try to sing a song together. Don't wait for your neighbor, because your neighbor might be waiting for you.
Wanna take you higher? Are you ready?
We believed in what we felt in here. So when we went up Let's go. Let's go do it.
That was awesome. Did
Great.
you see the crowd? Like,
Yeah.
The crowd alone, like I
50,000 some days.
wow.
Yeah.
And it was 7 days like that?
Yeah, 6 days. Yeah.
Good God.
300,000 people.
You know what it makes me think of when I was looking at the trailer? It reminds me of the March on Washington.
Yeah.
It truly does. And then to see people like David Ruffin.
Yeah.
We got the Temptations coming to the Grand Opera House in
All right.
October. So
All right.
when I saw David Ruffin
Yeah.
and then to see Stevie Wonder on the drums, I didn't even know he played the drums. I knew
Yes.
about the harmonica, I knew
That
about
was
the
a
piano.
surprise, yes.
Yeah. that is really cool. And Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Yes.
That was
It's a roll call
yeah.
of top talent.
Yeah.
All playing free in the park.
Ironically, that's like my whole playlist. So the crew
Then you
teases-
must see it.
Yeah, I gotta see it now. The crew teases me here, but I
Yeah.
listened to every single one of those folks that were highlighting that trailer. Wow. Well, I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you are a part of this.
Thanks.
I'm so glad that you're bringing this to the general public to watch. For all of those that are watching, please tune in on Hulu. You can catch Summer of Soul there. Mr. Greene, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Great to hear.
We'll be right back.
All right, now we're back, and I have the pleasure of sitting with a featured Vogue.com funky fashion diva from Wilmington, Delaware, Asata Beeks. Hi, Asata, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm very well. Listen, it's such an honor to have you sitting with me today. You have had some major things going on, even through COVID.
Yes, I have.
This last year, I can only imagine it's been quite a journey. Now, you are a one-woman fashion design team, correct?
Correct.
I love it. So tell me a little about how you got started into fashion. Have you always sewn?
I learned how to sew when I was 14 years old.
Okay.
I went to AI high school, and there was an amazing program there with textiles and sewing. So for my 4 years of high school, that's how I learned how to sew. And I believe when I was 16, so like my second year, I did my first local fashion show at Howard High School. And I just fell in love with the entire
so
process.
awesome.
Thank you.
Wow, that's
so
amazing.
After that, it just took off. It was pretty much what I knew I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I went to school for a little bit. I worked for other designers. I had internships.
You lived in LA, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
When I was out there, I did like PR work. I also worked for fashion designer Michael Costello and music label Odd Future doing graphic design.
neat.
So I did a little bit of everything, and all of that pretty much helped shape like what I do now and my personal aesthetic.
That's exciting. Okay. So you were in LA. You had a lot of different amazing opportunities, it sounds. Getting back to Delaware, what had you come back to Delaware?
I know that I can always come home. So I've been back a few times actually, like even after LA. I went to Europe and then I came home and then I travel again. It's always a place that I know I can touch down and there's peace here, peace of mind.
Yes.
It's not as fast as a big city. And that really allows me to get the work that I need to get done.
I gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, all right, you're back in Delaware and, you're getting some designs together and COVID hits.
Yep.
And so take me from there, because you had some really amazing opportunities at such a controversial time for this entire world.
Yeah.
Tell me, how did it happen? I'm super curious.
Yeah, so I was just with my family and I was in a very weird position, just like everyone else, not knowing what the future looked like for me. And I just tried to practice my craft a little bit every day, even though I was uncertain what I was going to do. And an editor at Vogue ended up purchasing one of my handbags that I made. Yes. And that is pretty much where things just took off. I was featured as one of 55 Black designers to support on Vogue.com. Shortly after that, I received a grant from music artist Halsey.
Oh, yes.
And that was super helpful to just like get things in place. And I got my own studio space after that. And the recognition from Vogue and the funding from Halsey, it all just helped like jumpstart this new stage of my career.
That's exciting. So let me ask you, how did you hear about the grant opportunity with Halsey? Because it was geared towards creators, correct?
Yes. I actually heard about it through Twitter, which I don't even use
Look
Twitter. I know, it's so funny. My friend and I, we use Twitter to send each other memes. And one day I just came across everyone was tweeting like, oh, hey, Halsey, this is what I do. Look at my work. So I just tried it. I was like, hey, I'm a designer. This is some of my work. And next thing you know, I got an email saying that I was the first recipient of the grant. Yes.
That's so awesome.
Yes.
So, okay, you're featured in Vogue, and then you have this amazing grant that you received from Halsey, and I can only imagine you must have had orders out the wazoo with all of this visibility now.
Yes.
Is that how it went?
Pretty much. So
Okay.
I create one-of-a-kind pieces because my focus is using what I already have. I love using dead stock and vintage materials.
Okay.
I try to use whatever is in my studio before I buy something else, and that's also
That's really
how-
responsible.
Yeah, I think that we all should approach design in that
Agreed.
way, and just our lifestyles is definitely a part of my overall lifestyle choices. And all my work on my website was just selling out so quickly, and it was hard to keep up.
Yeah, I bet. And it's just you.
It's just me doing like all the cutting, the sourcing, the pattern making, and the sewing, and the packaging.
Oh my gosh. So wait, have you ever thought about maybe going through manufacturing or like selling so that way you could have, you know, a little more time for yourself and not be producing it all? Or?
I think that this last year has helped me realize I can't do everything by myself.
Okay.
I do have so much support from my friends and my family. They
That's
like
good.
volunteer their time and come over and they help me out. And that has been a big help. But this year I am going in the direction of allowing myself to hand over some of the work so that I can have more time for myself and also not be stressed and worried about every little detail because I am pretty detail oriented.
I get it. No, that makes sense. And you have to be to create these pieces that you do. I can only imagine, from zippers to buttons to, you know, all the little
thread colors,
threads
everything.
Exactly. So let me ask you this. Hearing that you have such a responsible perspective on the environment, how do you, I don't know, do you have a game plan for your manufacturer of choice, or?
I want to stay as local
I don't really
as
know how to pick
possible.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, as local as possible, and something small.
Okay.
Nothing too big, too crazy. Something that, someplace rather that focuses on fair labor as well. That's like really important to me. So those are my main concerns.
You're so responsible. That's awesome.
Thank you. When you're into fashion, you start to realize like what's really going on behind the scenes, and it's really concerning. So I do my best to stay away from anything that just doesn't meet my morals, I would say.
I get it.
Yeah.
So what I also want to know, so handbags, that was like your kicker that really launched in 2020. Is that your niche? Like, would you say your
Not
go-to?
at all.
No. What are you really into if it's not handbags?
I love dressmaking.
Oh, I love a good dress.
Thank you.
Your
I
dress
made
is
the
cute
dress
too.
I'm wearing.
I like this.
And
yes.
this was patchworked out of all the leftover materials
Really?
that I had. So
wow,
I
this
like
is really nice.
dresses. Thank you. Honestly, garments and dresses were like my very first love, and the accessories, like the hats and the handbags, came along.
The bucket hats, right?
Yes, just came along as a way to use the leftover smaller pieces of fabric. I did not think that they would.
But it's so
blow
crazy
up
how
that way.
something so simple, you were just trying to reuse and not, you know, discard, and look at what that did for you.
I know, it's been amazing.
Oh my gosh, that's
I
so
couldn't
awesome.
have like even dreamed of like how things unfolded, to be honest.
Well, tell me, so you have a new collection, right?
So recently I released a small collection of bucket hats. The bucket hats were handmade with 1960s terry cloth fabrics. They have like really fun colors and prints, and the texture is also really nice. I love texture in my work. So right now I am working on more bags because that is so popular, but I am taking some time to do like a personal collection of clothing, to maybe have ready by like end of this year, early next year. But that
Very
takes
nice.
a lot more planning and
I bet.
time than bags and other accessories.
I bet. Where do you get your inspiration from?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I love being in nature. I love going outside. So there's so many just colors, patterns, and textures in nature that I'm inspired by. My family and my loved ones, what they listen to, what they watch on TV, like I love all of that. That makes me so happy. And I just take notes and I take photos. I do like amateur photography. So my own photography work is inspiring. Everything. Really.
That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Listen, I think what you're doing is amazing. I'm so excited to see what you've accomplished, excuse me, especially during COVID. For COVID to have taken place, for you to be working and to thrive during such a controversial time.
Yes.
And then, you know, for you to have such an art, you know, sewing. That's something I feel like is a lost art, like not a lot of youngsters are into nowadays. So representation for me is everything. So, you know, you're a Delawarean, you know, there are a lot of kids here I think could benefit from hearing your story. So I appreciate you for taking a moment to sit with us today, and congratulations. And I wish you the best of everything in your future.
Thank you
Very proud
so
of you.
much. I'm so
Local
grateful to
Delawarean
be here today and to be able to share my story. Thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. All right, we're going to go back over to the couch. We'll see you shortly.
Government doesn't make a move without an agenda, some type of plan. The problem is we haven't been on the agenda. Sometimes we're overlooked. Sometimes our interests aren't the interest of those in power. I'm your host, Kerwin Gaines, on DETV's new show, The Agenda. We're going to do our best to ensure that you, Delawareans, are knowledgeable about what's going on in the Assembly. Federal government, local government, it doesn't matter. We're going to do our best to ensure that folks that make the agenda on a daily basis have to answer for it. Let them explain what they're doing. If it affects you, it's on the agenda.
Asata Beeks. Listen,
that looks good.
It was really interesting to hear her story. I absolutely love the representation because, you know, in my opinion, sewing is such a dying art. So to have a millennial who has taken an interest, she learned when she was 14 in school. Listen, I didn't really pay attention like that in home ec.
My grandmother made sure. She's like, boy, you like to eat, you better know how to cook. You got a hem problem, you better learn how to sew.
Yes.
I know
how to do those
how to
things.
do that.
My great grandmother, she taught me how to, you know, fix buttons and hems and things of that sort. I knew how to like crochet and a few other things, but but I never listen. I didn't take a real interest in those kind but to see such a young woman who thrived during the pandemic, you know, I'm really excited about her representation and all of the great things she's going to go off to do. All the great things she's already done, but to hear, and when we were talking about Mill Summit last week with Deisha Dyer, and she was saying how she went from retail to the White House, you know, Asata, she went from Albright College. She decided that wasn't the route for her, so she took $1 and a dream out to LA and had some really great opportunities afforded to her, came back to Delaware, and look at her now.
Those are the best entrepreneur stories. When you get her at the Mill Summit.
Listen, I know.
Set it up.
That would be really nice.
Set it up.
Him, Charlie, Jen.
Set it up. So what'd you guys think of the trailer? Summer of Soul.
Yes. So I had heard about Summer of Soul prior to seeing the trailer. A friend of mine, she told me about it, and I was like, this sounds great. So watching the trailer, I'm like, oh no, I need to watch this. Oh
I was like a kid in the candy store, because y'all know me, you know, I'm sitting here just in luxury with all my old school music. I was like, this is awesome.
I had seen the trailer actually already on Hulu, and I was like, oh, this is really good. And it's like I save things on my list because sometimes my weeks get too busy, and I'm like, yep, this has got to be next. So I haven't seen it yet, but it's happening.
Yeah, it's up on my list next too.
Yeah, and what I love talking about with Bryan too is how it was funny because it's like you graduated from Harvard and you focused in politics. I went to school of the arts and got involved in politics. So it was like, and we both agreed how much they intertwine. They really do. And then during the civil rights era, you see Nina Simone, Stevie Wonder, David Ruffin, all that music. And the biggest thing that stuck out to me talking to Bryan was how Dr. King would call Mahalia Jackson to just lift his spirits up before he gave a speech.
I mean, and that goes back to even when I sat down earlier in the show with Ashley, we talked about that too. Art doesn't it's like therapy, right? So what's happening in society, what's happening in the world, things that are affecting us, that's how we communicate that and figure it out and work through it. So there is definitely a tie between,
I'm super big. When we sat down with Emilian the poet, in the interview, I told him music to me is just what feelings sound like. That's truly all that it is, in my opinion. Music is what feelings sound like. So whatever it is that's going on in society, the way the community feels, whether it's a group of people within the community or the community at large, it doesn't matter. The way it feels, and you look at that movement, that point in time that this documentary represents. Oh my gosh!
And the crowd. It took me back to watching videos of the March on Washington. It was bigger.
Just a sea of Black and brown people.
It was even bigger. Gladys Knight said it best. It was bigger than just the music.
Yes.
It was about making a statement.
Definitely.
And it's biblical. Nothing new is under the sun.
This is true.
Watching that. And then looking at the whole Black Lives Matter protest and everything, it's huge. But side note, cryptocurrency.
Oh my.
Yeah.
How much was it? 600 million was stolen. Stolen from a finance platform called Poly Network. Now, it's my understanding that they've given almost up to 4 million.
I think it's like
4.7 million back.
That's the thing that I'm just like, what?
So I'm going to put a T for a minute. As much as I get we're in 2021, digital age, and this, that, and the third. When something comes out that fast, I'm quick to be like, I don't know about that. Could you just imagine in 2021 walking around, I got $1 million on my thumb drive. How much you need? I'm not into it.
It's definitely, so cryptocurrency is definitely an interesting thing that's happening right now. I mean, and a lot of people are looking at it saying, oh, it's going to be the next thing and how we're going to do transactions and maybe so. I mean, I pay attention enough to see where this is going, but I know that in its current format, it's not going to work. And there's no regulation to it.
There is no regulation.
That's the biggest issue. So,
and then my biggest concern is how much is going to affect the value of the dollar? Again, clear for those
the value
watching.
Of the dollar is
I am ignorant to this stuff. I want disclaimer. But I'm questioning its impact on the dollar.
But I have the same exact question because it's international. So I could go and buy cryptocurrency in the U.S. format, but
I think that's why people think it's going to take over because the value of the dollar is this is what it's doing.
But I'm trying to figure out how it's going to work because the value of the U.S. dollar versus the pound or and other foreign currencies they're all different. So if it's going to be an all-around currency, maybe if it were to ever do that, how would that work?
I don't know, but maybe that's what they're going for. Maybe they're trying to figure out how to make it one current, exactly that crosses all borders and boundaries, and it's just something that we all use all over the world.
I don't even know how. My mind is so trying to process how that would even be possible.
You better than me.
So
when you dig into it, just educate me because I look at it, I'm like, I ain't touching
I might need another weekend at the beach to process that.
No, I'm going to need a cocktail and
something. I mean, it's really interesting. And the other thing that I find incredibly interesting about it too is, it's not treated like a currency so much as it is a stock in my mind.
Right.
So I have investments, and I don't know. I can call up and be like, where my dollar going?
Right.
I want to touch it and I want to see it.
In the same sense, it works the same way. It's almost like when you go to buy a stock, right? You're paying it the stock value. You go to buy cryptocurrency, you're paying for whatever that value is. So like $1 is not, oh, you get $1 in crypto. No, it doesn't work that way. And what you pay for it today could be completely different tomorrow. So it's, it reminds me a lot of trading. It really does. So it's one of those things where I'm just like, whoo. And
it's touchy.
As an educated, when I got my education in entrepreneurship, we're taught to be a strategic risk taker.
Yeah. And you just sat down last show with the administrator from SBA.
Yes, I did.
I would have loved to know her feedback.
You know what? That would have been a really good
I would have
question.
loved, that would have been my question, sidebar. Talk to me about crypto. I want to know where you feel about this.
That would have been a really good question.
I'm actually curious what some of our viewers have to say about cryptocurrency because I'm not well versed in cryptocurrency by any means.
I definitely.
And I know I know quite a few individuals here in Delaware that are very versed into it.
Yes.
Even some of our politicians know about it more than I do. So, you're right. I would love to hear what they have to say
super
about
curious.
I'm definitely no expert. My nephew knows a lot, so I kind of pick his brain on stuff like this all the time. Like, what in the world is happening?
And I feel like all of the techie folk that we have out here are the ones who are super knowledgeable about cryptocurrency, And I what I do know is it has been around for a while. It's something that is from the dark web. That's how transactions were made.
Yep.
That'd be about the extent of all I know of cryptocurrency.
It's untraceable.
So.
Yeah.
Well,
I always enjoy working with you guys on this Monday morning.
Indeed, it's a great way to start the Monday.
This is fun. It's fun. So big shout out to DETV crew and Ivan.
Hey.
Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your Monday.
Good morning, Wilmington.